I used to word things. Time is a continuum. It means it goes at a certain lineage, but it's really about me and Lucas. Pshimikovsky, however you say it, when he was murdered. But he time traveled from 2000 to like 85 or 86, and me and him understood something. And he knew it too, because I could see his soul later on. I had a repression, and like 2 3 years ago, and I saw moments from his life. And I remember in the early 2000s, I was like, I just had this feeling of I time traveled, and it's like I remember Mobb Deep Shook Once Part Two. I knew, I still kind of know it. He knew it as well, but we made this not so packed. It's this thing about time travel. You shouldn't rhyme stuff. Let's say in 85, 86, or I think it was like 88 or 89 or so. Actually, it was before I came from Poland or Spain to the United States. So it must have been 85 or 86, because Nimick was there, Adam Nimick, and he was rhyming Mobb Deep, Shook Ones, even some of Big Pun. Actually, not so much Big Pun, because me and him didn't remember. He was trying to write down in his book. The problem was, I don't know if he had a healthy fear of that. But I had a healthy fear of that. It's like, say somebody hears that. It's like 85, 86, you're a time traveler. You know lyrics from like, mid 90s, but you say something, oh, that's hot, and they record it, and maybe they put a copyright on it. Maybe that's not how it works. You got to produce it, you got to prove it nonetheless. But, lyrics for lyrics and words, I was kind of, I know how he felt like. Because anytime traveled, I felt the same way. It's like, I'm going to spit at bars. I'm going to spit verses from like the 90s. Like this 80s stuff is great, but wait till you hear what's going in the 90s. And it's one of my favorite songs. He was the one that talked about, a Big Pun was probably the best Latino rapper, or maybe the best rapper ever, because he was a big fan of his. But the Mobb Deep Shook Ones Part 2, he rhymed it over on Elizabeth Avenue in like mid 80s. So that was actually the first time anyone heard Shook Ones Part 2. It's true, because I remember seeing that. I felt it, but it was like a fear. Some other people held it, and he was like, okay, I rhyme it for you, but I remember him telling us, like, but you can't tell this to anybody else, and you cannot record this. It's like, you wouldn't want to record that, because, like, let's say, Prodigy and Havoc over there sit down and write it, but there's a video of that, and it's like, what the fuck is this shit? And also, it's like, he would explain, it's like, oh, yeah, I time travel, like, I'm a fan, like, and no offense, man, I'm not gonna steal your shit, but who knows whoever will take it rhyme for rhymes, or maybe they'll try to get the beat, but except in the time frame that it happened, he already knew, and I knew, he had to think about it. Well, obviously, no one's gonna take it, and then we never heard any lawsuits or like them being sued or something like that. So it was like abundantly clear that no one would mess with that. So it was safe to do it. It's the thing with time traveling. It's like the grandfather paradox. They say you go back and travel in time, you kill your grandfather, you won't be born. Except you won't be able to do that, because if you would have succeeded, then you wouldn't have been born in the beginning. It's a conundrum. It's a paradox. It's a revolving door. Same with these lyrics. I didn't hear any lyrics, so maybe there were, but I didn't hear anybody had problems with that. People were saying Mobb Deep and Big Pun's lyrics in the 80s, and they were it's like someone was like, Big Pun was stealing lyrics. That's what I cared about. If that came out and there was like, people saying, oh, this, that's another thing. But it's a certain thing that I felt, and I'm pretty sure he felt. It was Elizabeth Avenue, mid to late 90s that he started, rhyming the Shook Ones Part 2. But, that's the thing with time travel. Like, things from the future, and you gotta be careful. Because, it's a certain influence. You could create an influence, and it will change the future. Like him dating a certain pop singer and stuff. And, like, supposedly it wasn't something about him, except me and him, we probably wouldn't care. Like, we wouldn't give a fuck. We would be like, really? Oh, cool, I'm gonna date her, But it is like that. It is like that, especially when, you grow up and you hear that song, and then you start to think, well, let's say I go out with her, like, you think she would do that? Is that really about me? And also, it's like, you're part of a culture now, like, it just, it's something to think about. But, me and him, he was very careful, at least to my knowledge. He didn't want anyone to record it. And if they did, it's like, they had to not just erase it, but they couldn't take it and just say it was their lyrics. That's what me and him always protected. That was my fear. I'm pretty sure it was his. That's what I meant. But time is a continuum. It's a continuum. It continues. Just because you time travel, it doesn't stop. It doesn't change. It goes the same way. And all the events in the time frame. You time travel. It's like you put a wrinkle in events. But whenever time you come from, it's solid. It will always be like that. You just time travel, and whatever happens in the future already happened. Even you're not aware of it in the future, you're not aware that you had that influence, because it could be a possibility. That's one of the possibilities. You're not too fully aware, because a lot of people just don't talk. A lot of people just don't talk. Let's say I time travel right now, and it's like, it's not like, the movie Marty McFly, just, something happens and I immediately have this, or like Ashton Kutcher. It won't be like that. I just won't be aware of the circumstances that I time travel and I change. So when you time travel, you don't want to cause that ripple effect. He was very, very skittish and worried, but at the same time, he had fun, because it was like, he knew nothing was going to happen. He knew, Mobb Deep was going to record that song, so he was kind of safe.